A good Friday morning. This is a live look over Macon at 5 o'clock on this Friday, October 7th. I'm Caitlin Heck. Carly Barnett is working hard in our newsroom right now, gathering the latest information on Hurricane Matthew and how it will impact your day. She'll join us live later on in the show. First, we're going to head on over to Pat Kavlin, who's tracking Hurricane Matthew right now. Pat?
All right, thank you, Caitlin. Yes, quiet conditions here at home. Temperatures in the lower 70s, so a bit warmer than where we've started the last few days. We've got a nice breeze out there, still out of the northeast at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. And humidity is starting to creep up there as well. And we're going to see that trend continue as Hurricane Matthew draws closer to the area. Temperatures right now ranging from the upper 60s to the lower 70s to mid 70s, though, as you head down in the south. So a warmer, more humid air mass, something characteristic of a tropical system, and that's what we're going to see over the next 24 to 36 hours. Current winds, again, mainly out of the northeast at about 5 to 15 miles per hour, some at times gusting even upwards of 20 miles per hour. So not a strong wind, but a nice breeze keeping the air moving out there. We will see this, though, pick up as we go through the afternoon and evening as Hurricane Matthew gets closer to the area. Cloud coverage outside right now, but we are dry. Notice down to the south, rain bands starting to come onshore down towards Brunswick and South Georgia, along the Florida border into Jacksonville, up towards Savannah, Hilton Head, Tybee Island. You're not seeing any rain bands quite yet. They're about 20 miles offshore, so probably within the next half an hour we expect some of these rain bands to come on shore. Down, though, along the coast of Florida, we watch the center of Hurricane Matthew continue to run parallel to the 95 corridor. The heaviest winds, the strongest winds here, right in with these heavier rain bands along the eye wall. Unfortunately, just a few miles offshore. So Melbourne right now experiencing some of the worst conditions. Same up towards Daytona Beach. Winds sustained in the center of this system at 120 miles per hour. It's continuing that movement to the north-northwest at about 15 miles per hour. This is as of the 5 a.m. update. And here's a look at some of the winds around this right now. Sustained at 42 in Melbourne, 41 miles per hour towards Daytona Beach, but 56 mile per hour winds sustained as you go over the water. The worst of the storm is to the east. That's the one saving grace, but flooding rain and tidal surge, that's going to be a huge concern with this storm, especially as it moves up the Georgia coastline. We'll talk about that in detail along with the latest track coming up in your full forecast ahead in just 10 minutes. Caitlin?
Thank you, Pat. Before we continue with our team coverage of Hurricane Matthew, we want to go to our morning reporter, Yvonne Thomas. She is live in Cochran this morning at the scene of a fatal accident. Yvonne?
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm here on Highway 87 here in Cochran. You can still see crews are still behind me, still working this accident, still trying to clear it up. Here's what we know so far. This is a 3-car accident with 1 fatality. What we know, this is all coming from Glenn Altman, the Georgia State Patrol trooper. Now, he told me this accident happened around 12:30 a.m. this morning. What we know so far is that one vehicle and a trucker that's actually filled with fuel actually collided and dispersed on 2 different sides of the road. Another car was coming north on Highway 87, did not see the trucker, and then crashed into that truck as well. Now, right now, we did say that there is 1 fatality. That fatality is coming from the truck that originally hit the trucker. There's one person that was the one person that has died in that accident. There were 4 other people in that car. There was 1 person driving the trucker, and there were 2 other people in those cars. Now, the trucker was airlifted to Navicent Health in Macon. The other 2 people that were in the truck that came and collided after they saw that crash with the trucker, those 2 people are fine. They aren't injured, and they're doing pretty good. Now, the other 4 people that were in the car with the person who did pass away were all taken to Navicent Health in Madison. Right now, we don't know what actually caused the accident, but we'll be looking into that, and investigators are looking into that, and we'll bring you the most updated information as we have it. For now, reporting live in Cochran, Yvonne Thomas, 13 WMAZ Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Yvonne. We'll be checking with her later on in the show. You can also get updates on 13WMAZ.com. Well, down in St. Augustine, Florida, the oldest city in the nation is bracing for the impact that Hurricane Matthew is expected to bring. Though many people followed the mandatory evacuation alert in the city, some decided to stay. Shelby Danielson with our corporate station in Jacksonville spoke with the fire chief on his thoughts about the people who stayed and how high that water is expected to rise.
We just had an emotional interview with the fire chief of St. Augustine, who is very passionate about protecting this city, telling us he is saddened by the thought of anyone choosing to stay here despite that mandatory evacuation. In a few hours, actually, he and his own fire department here in St. Augustine will leave the city for their own safety and for the safety of their families. Now, he told us when Matthew gets closer and when we really feel the impact here in St. Augustine, the water level here on the on the main street downtown, you see the top of that sign. He says it's going to get that high. You can imagine St. Augustine already prone to flooding, so when that water comes, those storm surges, possibly at least 9 feet high. It is not hard to imagine. With all of that, the water will be that high. And it's also important to note that signs like this, sharp signs like this, all around this city, well, they may be flying through the air, because imagine those wind speeds. So very dangerous conditions out here. That's why we say the words catastrophic, deadly conditions. Those aren't just words we throw out. They are exactly what will be happening here. A lot of debris will be flying through the air. Deadly conditions, can't emphasize it enough. And of course, we're telling people, if you decided not to follow that mandatory evacuation order, it is too late. Really, it is. You shouldn't be on the roads right now. Conditions are starting to get worse and worse, so you should stay hunkered down in your homes. In St. Augustine, I'm Shelby Danielson. Back to you.
Obviously, a lot of people have evacuated the area, and right now hundreds of people taking shelter in Lawrence County away from the effects of Hurricane Matthew. More than 50 people sleeping on cots at the shelter at Dublin High School. Sonny's Barbecue donated dinner to the evacuees last night, and they're going to bring them lunch and dinner today as well. There was even a group of women from the United Kingdom who had their South Carolina vacation cut short. Many others are from as far away as Fernandina Beach in Florida and Brunswick, Georgia, like Ruth and Lori.
I worked in public health for 34 years. And every time we had a disaster, we had to work the shelters. I enjoyed it because I got to meet the people. Now I'm on the other end of it, and I see how much of a blessing it is for people who don't have a place to go.
At Dublin High School, the only shelter in the city, there are 3 other shelters open in Lawrence County. And while many people are fleeing the coast and moving inland, seniors in need of medical attention are being transported to the Warner Robins Rehabilitation Center. Patients from the Abercorn Rehabilitation Center in Savannah started making their way to Central Georgia yesterday. Administrator Bill McMichael says the facility has brought in air mattresses, and donations have come in from all around Houston County. McMichael says without the community's support, helping those evacuees would have been tough.
We've had to bring in extra support and extra supplies, and we've reached out to the community, and they've been so gracious to help us. We really appreciate the community of Warner Robins for coming out and supporting our facility and our sister facility.
Now, we are continuing to update you with the latest information on Hurricane Matthew and its impact today and this weekend. Our Carly Barnett is working hard in the newsroom to gather the latest. We join her now. Carly?
Thank you, Caitlin. I know we had touched on St. Augustine just a little bit ago, but I would be remiss if I didn't tell you what was going on in Florida right now, because that's really where all eyes are at this moment. I've been looking and seeing what's going on nationally, and this is coming from CBS. In Florida, we're talking rain, winds up to 70 miles per hour. And we have some video here of West Palm Beach. If you take a look, storm shutters, I mean, they're being completely ripped off of homes, storefronts. In Daytona Beach, police say the streets were actually pretty empty. Most people had already evacuated at that point, and that is what they are encouraging people to do, is just to get out of the area. Now, it is now a Category 3 storm, and once it makes its way through Florida, it is expected to reach Georgia, but it's too soon to tell the path at this point. We know Pat is keeping an eye on that. So right now, Florida is really dealing with the brunt of it. Governor Rick Scott says, of course, safety is the #1 priority.
We can rebuild homes, we can rebuild businesses. I just think of my own family. We can't rebuild a life. This storm's a monster.
Now, more than 200,000 people in Florida are already without power, and President Obama has declared a state of emergency in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. Caitlin.
All right, thank you, Carly. We're going to be checking back with her with the latest information a little later on in the show. And don't forget, you can keep track of the storm anywhere you are. All you have to do is download our 13WMAZ mobile app for the latest on the hurricane and its impact, and you can find that in the App Store. It is now 5:39. We're going to check in with Pat with another look at that forecast. Pat?
All right, thank you, Caitlin. Yes, we continue to track Hurricane Matthew. For us, we're not talking about big impacts. It'll mainly be for the coast, but we are still going to see clouds and a few showers out there this afternoon. But as we go through the weekend, conditions gradually improve. We're talking about a beautiful forecast next week. Those details and the latest on Hurricane Matthew and Eyewitness News Morning continues on this Friday.